His most respected artistic voices, David Koloane. The Alexandra-born artist was involved in the founding of Johannesburg's first black art gallery and headed fine arts in the community's creative body, the Federative Union of Black Artists, FUBA. Koloane also established a studio space for black artists known as the Fordsburg Artist Studios, or the Bag Factory. His friend and fellow artist Diana Heslop spoke to Desiree Chauke earlier this morning.
Condolences, I suppose, to the family and friends.
Yeah, it's such a shock to me. I got a call last night from Neil Dundas from the Goodman Gallery with the news.
Yeah.
And my phone hasn't stopped ringing. It's just, everybody's in a state because David was a cornerstone of South African art.
What a legend.
Oh, a total legend and such a humble man. He'd come into my studio and he'd talk to me for about 10 minutes and suddenly he'll say something like, I've just been invited to start your gallery in London. And I said, but David, that's astonishing. And I mean, the 16 people from the whole of South America and the whole of Africa, and he's one of them. And he's not a show-off. I mean, a lot of artists are show-offs, but I mean, he's not, He was so humble and amazing that way.
I totally understand what you mean, because when in my days working at Morning Live, we interviewed him several times, and every time you'd get that sense of humility, and then he would tell you about his life story, where he has been, the works he has sold, and then you start to realize what an amazing human being you were in the midst of.
Astonishing, he really is. And also, artistically, I mean, Ricky Burnett is like a big art, founder of the Bag Factory. He thinks David Koloane is the best artist in the country.
And he is.
And he is.
So you shared the studio at the Bag Factory with him. Tell us about that journey.
Well, there are about 13 full-time artists at the Bag Factory. So when you drive, you'd always chitty-chat, come move into each other's studios, come and say, just come and see if this works or if this doesn't work. So you form a very close relationship. So I've been there since 2002, so it's quite a long time, that nearly every day seeing David, so it's like a big loss. And, also because of his standing, a lot of curators would come from overseas, and the person they came to see was David. He was like the draw card and the attractor.
I'm just looking at a tweet from another curator, Bulani Kingston, saying, we're saddened by the news of the passing of one of our great South African master artists, David Koloane. It's especially sad that this is the year when he was finally being recognized for his significant contribution to the arts. May his gentle and precious soul rest in peace.
Yes.
Give us a sense of a day at the Bag Factory and the kind of processes and conversations that would take place there.
Well, it was quite interesting because he's had a studio next to Pat Mortler, and it didn't have a ceiling. So somebody who had the studio on the other side said she really missed him when he wasn't there, because you'd hear David and Pat going, "Oh, that, so."
How old is he, by the way?
He turned 81 on the 4th of June.
Yeah.
So we gave him a fabulous party when he turned 80 at the Bag Factory. It was just...
What does Bulani Kingston mean when she said in this year that he was finally being recognized?
They did a big retrospective of his work in Cape Town at the Zika Museum. And now they're doing one at WAM in Joburg, I think in September. I'm not sure.
Suppose that'll be posthumously then.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Neil Dundas from the Goodman was saying when he went to Cape Town, he was so happy and he had so much energy. And because he'd had lung problems, it was probably easier to breathe in Cape Town. So he was over the world happy.
Yeah.
So...
What were your last conversations with him? What do you remember speaking to him about?
I'd phone him every week and check him. And I said, maybe we'd want to come and have a bit of lunch. He said, just a bit exhausted after Cape Town.
Yeah.
Maybe next week or something. So I just phoned him last week and I spoke to Monica, his wife. last week, and she said, "Oh, David's fine, come and see him,"
Yeah, yeah.
So I really feel for her because I think she must be really suffering now. I mean, it's just the two of them together for so long,
Incredible. Any children, do you know?
I think a son that had passed on, so it was basically just Monica and
Just
him.
the two of them. Yeah.
But a strong family. I mean, his niece phoned me from Kuruman yesterday, devastated. And they're all coming up, for him.
What remind us of his work, especially the younger generation?
Well, he lives at the corner of Empire Road and just that road before, God, I don't know what his name is, next to Hillbrow.
Yeah, so it's just around the corner from the SABC.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so many of his flats, so many of his paintings had that Hillbrow Tower in them. It was quite an iconic symbol. And he did a lot about street life and street life.
Did he capture the old one that had Coca-Cola instead of Telkom or the new branding?
Because
for years it had Coca-Cola on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he did magnificent paintings with dogs in Soweto that were just, I wish I had one of those.
Was he selling well internationally?
David, the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, his work was really in demand. I mean, his CV reads like something you can dream of,
Is this a huge loss for the arts world?
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a cornerstone of the arts world. I mean, everybody came wanting to see David. He was the person, And in his quiet, as you know, that quite humble way of his. And I mean, this picture here of him was, I think, the last exhibition we were in together.
Yeah.
It was at UJ.
What do you think made him so successful?
He just was so dedicated to his art. He wasn't a hugely social person.
I suppose those are the lessons that young artists coming up should take from him.
Young artists would come and speak to him. He said, "Well, go to the Joburg Library and see all those art books there and work."
Yeah.
That's what he stuck to his theme in a way as well, And he'd do a painting and then he'd leave it for months and he'd come back and he'd restart working on it. It was just fantastic to watch.
Wow, what a loss.
Yeah, and his studio now, I mean, the walls, everything, it's going to have, it was so covered in charcoal and the floor was black already. It was just so lived in,
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a very big loss.
He was the oldest survivor